bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Hey now. How you doing? Man, it's Monday. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. That's right. Today is Monday, February 20th. 51 days into the new year, just 314 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Oh, yeah. Still raining here, by the way, in SoCal. Hasn't stopped. We took 4 days off. Well, we worked, but spent the majority of the last 4 days in bed. Everything is good. Got my pipes back. My head is together. I'm in the chair, and it's another week of Fade to Black. Tonight, very special guest, Melinda Leslie is here. We're going to talk MILABS tonight. Of course, we're going to do some night vision stuff. That's what she does, and we'll discuss all of that and what's new in her world. Tomorrow night, Dr. Michael Salla is going to be here. We're going to discuss exopolitics, whistleblowers, and his great work that he does. Wednesday night is Ouija night with Karen Dahlman. We're going to do a Ouija board night. Yeah, man. And Rita and I were talking about this. Like, have we ever actually done like a Ouija night? Just like a Ouija night? No, we haven't. And Karen Dahlman is here. So there you go. That'll be Wednesday. Thursday is Fader Night with John Rappaport. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. And then after that, this weekend, I'll be over at Coast to Coast AM. And Friday and Saturday. Friday, my guest will be the one and only Corey Good. Corey Good, mano y mano with me on Coast to Coast Friday night. And also, I think we're going to do open lines, too, as well with Corey. So get ready for that. And then Saturday, my guest will be announced on Thursday, because that's how Coast to Coast does it, right? And they make their announcements for the following week on Thursday night on the website. So you'll find out who my Saturday guest is on Thursday. All right. There you go. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Facebook, YouTube, you know what to do. The sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter in TweetDeck. Use hashtag F2B. Come over and hang out with all of us. Any questions or comments during the show tonight? Hashtag F2BQ. All right. Did you guys go? Did anybody make it out to the International UFO Congress? I know that Eric did. And let's see, got my Gen 2 night vision in Arizona. Oh, Eric got night vision. So he was out there. Were you out at the International UFO Congress? Let us know how that was. Melinda was there, so she'll be here shortly, and we'll ask her how the Congress went. And so if you went, we'll open up the phone lines a little bit later. Tell us how the Congress was this year. Subscribe to the podcast. We have over 600 archive shows. Now, let's see, custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms, just $2 a month. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. You can click on the podcast banner. You can go to iTunes, Google, go and download the applications. Over the next couple of days, I think we are ready to make this announcement tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it on Wednesday, but we've got a fairly huge announcement to make concerning Fade to Black. So get ready for that. I think we're about ready to go. I almost did it right now, but we'll do it tomorrow. All right. If not, I promise you we'll do it on Wednesday. Check out all of our sponsors. Click on their banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo codes for discounts and free shipping because you are a Fadernaut. All the promo codes, everything that you need are over in the banners at jimmychurchradio.com. All right. The next big conference coming up, of course, is Contact in the Desert. I cannot believe this. We are at the end of February, so we have March and April, and then boom, that's it. So we are 2.5, 3 months away from Contact in the Desert in Joshua Tree. It is May 19th through the 22nd. Tickets and info are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Speakers this year, there are 50 speakers, but of course, George Norrie, Graham Hancock, Jacques Vallée, Robert Bivol, Robert Schock, David Wilcock, Corey Good, Jim Mars, Giorgio, Richard Dolan, Andrew Collins, Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber, David Serrata, and another 30 or 40 other researchers. I've seriously lost count with this, and they're adding a couple of surprise TBAs here that they are working on. So there you go. Tickets and info over at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get this show cracking. Very excited. Melinda Leslie is here tonight. Eric says he will call later. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Happy birthday to the Stone Roses frontman Ian Brown is 54. Our dead guy's birthday today is, of course, Kurt Cobain. 1967 to 1994, took his own life at the age of 27. And that's all that needs to be said. Happy birthday, Kurt. There you go, 27 years old. Wow. Unbelievable. OTD on this day in history. In 1962, from Cape Canaveral, Florida, John Glenn is successfully launched into space aboard the Friendship 7 spacecraft on the first orbital flight by an American astronaut on this day in 1962. Wow. I've seen the Friendship 7. Insane. That's all I got to say. A lazy boy recliner is bigger than the Friendship 7. Fader fact, J.R.R. Tolkien typed the entire 1,200-page manuscript of Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, right? With 2 fingers. That is a Fader fact. All right. Tonight, Melinda Leslie is here. We're going to talk about MILABS and, of course, night vision and what goes on in the skies out there. And tomorrow night, Michael Salla is going to be here live. Oh, man. There you go. Phone was left on. What a mistake that is in radio. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Where am I? Where am I? Michael Salla tomorrow night, Exopolitics. Wednesday night, Ouija night with Karen Dahlman right here. Thursday night is going to be Fader night with John Rappaport. Call the numbers 323-825-5045. I wanted to take a moment here and respond to a bunch of emails that I received over the weekend, and I'm going to respond to all of them at the same time. All right? Okay? In a general sort of sense, because emails come in waves, the subjects. It's pretty bizarre. And over the weekend, I got a bunch of Well, concerning the D word in general, right? Disclosure, which pretty much comes up in every other email that I get these days. And it comes up in different forms for different reasons. But the word itself seems to always be there right in front of me, and when are we going to have it? It's and I get that. Can I speak about it more? And I get that too, sort of. Who is right about it? Everybody wants to know that. Who do we trust here? Who do we believe? Who do we put our faith in? Right? There's that part. Who is wrong? Right? Why don't I have more guests on to talk about it? And so I want to kind of address that chunk of email right there, because I think that either these emails are coming in from people that don't listen to the show that often, right? They enjoy the show and they would like to hear more about disclosure. And they don't realize that if they listen to a big chunk of shows, a year in a row, that disclosure is discussed just about on every single show, right? And to ask me about when are we going to have it? Well, I think that we already have. That's my concern. But I get that question so often, and I thought that I addressed it so much on this show that I almost don't want to talk about it anymore, because I feel like I've run it in the ground, right? But I keep getting email about it. And everybody wants to know who I think is the right disclosure person out there. Right? Who is right? Who is wrong? And again, I think that I address this all the time on the show. And for me to get all of this email about it over the weekend, and like I said, it comes in waves. But I feel like I talk about it too much, right? But apparently I don't. So I guess we'll continue to bring up the D word every single show. I don't have a problem with that. But okay, all right. I'm going to do this here, right here. Boom. Why don't I have on more guests to talk about it? Well, tonight Melinda Leslie is here, and we'll get to that. The other chunk of emails that I got over the weekend were about different sightings and that you've had. And some had some pictures, some had video. A couple of them were of ghost, and I thought that was really interesting, too, as well. And that you heard me speak about our mass sighting out at Contact in the Desert. And I get this in so many emails, and I got it this weekend, that, you've heard me speak about, Contact in the Desert, and now that you felt that you had the need to share because you felt a trust as to how I'd handle it, right? Now, I get these all the time, and it got me to thinking. It seems that you, all of you, are listening and that you get it, because I say it all the time, that I am you. And what I mean by that is I'm just a guy, right, that we've built this trust between us. And that says a lot. The decision, well, I mean it like this. The very same curiosity that all of you have about the skies, about ET, about the world, about our past, about our future, our universe. Well, it's exactly the same for me. It's not any different at all. And I'm serious. The fact that we built this trust, it does say a lot, because you are listening. When I say that I am you, it's what I mean. And apparently you get it. The decision for me to go public, really public, by the way, about what happened last year at CITD, it wasn't even a decision. It wasn't. I just did it. At the time, I didn't think about you, the audience, the public. Well, not in the sense that I was worried about what everyone would think about me personally. No, it wasn't that at all. I just felt that it was the right thing to do for us. All of us needed it, and it came at the right time, too. Let me explain. The sighting itself had everything going for it. It had all of the elements. It's kind of crazy. First, we had multiple witnesses, right? Second, tons of video and images. And third, I was there, right? It had all of the elements going for it. It was the perfect thing at the perfect time. That puts me in a pretty amazing position if you stop and think about it. All I have to do is report on exactly what I saw. Nothing more. Nothing more. I just need to exactly what I saw, because there's witnesses, there's videos. All I've got to do is speak about it. What a cool position to be in, right? Because we are all on the same team, if you think about it. The sightings on that Saturday night were many. I had 3. Rita had hers. The crowd on Orion's Lookout that night, they saw much more. Okay? I only had my little 3 things. But from my memory, it was probably the first time that a mass sighting like that happened with a national radio dude who was there and was able to turn right around and go national with the largest possible audience and talk about it. And not as a host, not as an interviewer, not as somebody questioning, but as a witness. And at that moment, we all became one. When I say that I am you, there you go. It happened. It had all of the elements. How cool is that? So that's what got me thinking about these emails. I get why they come in with the tone that they do. Some of you may get tired of hearing me speak of that night in Joshua Tree, right? And I understand that. I do. Some of you may want me to tell the story again and again. You know, Uncle Jimmy, tell us about that contact in the desert sighting. Please, just tell us, one more time. And I get that too. For me, well, every time I go and relive the moment, I understand how special it was, because it was truly extraordinary. It's our little contribution to disclosure. We know something is going on. So when you hear me tell the story one more time, I want you to think about what's going on in my head, because I'm tripping. I keep telling myself over and over again, it really happened. I was there. And when I tell the story, I know that you can back me up, and I can back up you, because we are truly united. We are in this together, and I get that. So I try to put all of this in perspective a little bit. For you, for those that get it, right, or that were there, okay, we have it, it's there. I understand. But for those that were not there, you need to think about that for a second. For those that weren't there, and they know that there's the video, there's the witnesses, there's everybody that was there. There's Melinda Leslie and Rita and the Fader and I, everybody that was there, thousands. Right? For them, that's the validation. It's always about the evidence. And here, it's not one witness or not two, it's hundreds, if not thousands. Did you get pictures? Yeah, we got pictures. All of those things that I talk about when I ask a witness or a guest on the show, and I go down the list of questions, what they smell like, were they wearing makeup, did you take a picture, right? Well, we have all of those things. We can now go down the checklist. And for the audience out there that was not there or is hearing this story relived for the first time for them, we are able to back each other up with that laundry list of stuff. And this is all part of disclosure. I have to tell you, for me to see something like this, as large as it was, leave our Earth and turn into a star and then exit and head out into the solar system is a crazy thing. I can't explain it, but we lived it all together. Now, to put it all into context, when we talk about, when you hear me talk about Long John Nebel or Billy Goodman or some of the other radio hosts out there, they are asking questions and they do a good job and they did a good job and they pioneers, and I get that. But for us, for the first time, I was able to stand there with you and witness this and go public with it. I don't care what people think, and I never considered what anybody thought. We are truly in this together. When somebody asks me now about disclosure, I'm going to go, what more do you need? We had our mass sighting. We had it together. You know, now, and this is the third point I want to make, and it's probably the most important one. Rita and I, as we were leaving that night, this is what I said to Rita. And I may have said this before, but this point needs to be driven home. I turned to Rita. You know, this is our moment alone. And I turned to her and I said, you know, if Wolf Blitzer, that was the name that came out of my mouth. I said, if Wolf Blitzer or Anderson Cooper was with us right now and saw what we saw, would they report on this? You know, so when we talk about disclosure, and Rita said no, you know, that I don't think that they would. You know, it's a real event. This is a real event. This is not imaginary. This isn't special effects. You know, this was a real event that happened. What would they do with this information? With this event that they witnessed? Would they turn around and report it? And that's the problem that we have with disclosure. Okay? You can beg and plead for something else to be given to you, for the government to say something, for the flying saucer on the White House lawn. You beg and beg and beg for this. You know, in my opinion, if that happened, it would be a non-event. It would get twisted around into something else. Just like I know that if somebody from Fox or CNN or MSNBC or ABC, CBS was out on the edge of that cliff with us, it would get twisted around. And they, it's, you know, and that's my point. All right? But I was there, and I'm not going to handle it like that. I'm going to speak exactly as I saw it. I have not twisted this story around. I have not made it bigger than it is or smaller than it is. I've reported exactly what happened. Why? Because I've got the witnesses and the video to back up everything that I saw. So I don't need to glorify or get it crazy or anything. No. Right? But anybody else that was there wouldn't be part of the team. And you guys get that. And I want to thank you for that. And I get these emails, and I want to just drive this home. I realize now that you get it. I am you. That's it. I just happen to be the guy that's on the microphone. Tonight, Melinda Leslie is here. Melinda stood there with Rita and I on that cliff last year. It's been a year. I cannot believe it, but it's been a year. And she was there. She's got a very special ability. I don't know how she is at the right place at the right time, but she tends to be. She's seen a lot. She's got an extraordinary life. We're going to go through all of that tonight. And yes, once again, we will probably relive what happened at Contact in the Desert. Contact in the Desert, I had said it last year. I'll say it again. Throughout history, ufology is going to look back at that night at Contact in the Desert and say, wow, were you there? That was the night that it happened. Well, my friends, I was, Rita was, a lot of questions were answered. We have all witnessed strange things. We have. Okay, but that night we did it all together. And it's my honor tonight to have Melinda Leslie back here with us. All right, so we're going to do that. Also, Eric says he's got some Gen 2s. I think the San Fernando Valley has just changed because he's going to be a frequent guest over at the house now. Oh, my goodness. I cannot wait. And tomorrow night, Michael Sala's going to be here. And Wednesday night, Karen Dahlman. Thursday night, Fader night. Friday night, I'm over at Coast to Coast AM. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get Melinda Leslie in here. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow me on Twitter @jchurchradio. I'll be right back with Melinda Leslie. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms, that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's GetTheTea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Melinda Leslie is here. Tomorrow night, Dr. Michael Salla. And then Wednesday night, looking forward to this, we're going to do all Ouija all night long with Karen Dahlman. Thursday night, another Fader night with John Rappaport. Then Friday and Saturday, I'm over at Coast to Coast. Friday night, I'm sitting in for George, and my guest will be Corey Good. All right, so that's our week. Buckle up, kids. Let's do this. Melinda Leslie is a researcher. She's an investigator in the field of ufology with over 27 years of experience. For 5 years, she's been the owner of UFO sighting tours out in Sedona, Arizona, where she has conducted nearly, now this number has gone up, but 600 tours with the use of military night vision goggles. Melinda is a UFO abductee and has been public with her own extraterrestrial and covert-ops in human abduction experiences for 26 years and has researched a military and intelligence agency involvement in the UFO abduction cases for 25 years. We're going to discuss MILABS tonight. She has lectured for numerous organizations, including MUFON and the International UFO Congress, is a frequent guest on numerous radio shows, including Coast to Coast AM and, of course, right here, Fade to Black. I've had her on Coast to Coast, too, as well. Melinda, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Great, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Before we get all nutty and crazy tonight, because I'm looking forward to this, a couple of things. You went to the International UFO Congress. How was it?
Amazing, of course. It was really fantastic. Had a great time. Met up with a lot of friends. Saw some really great presentations by different speakers. It's always a blast.
Did you, well, I know you brought your gear with you. Did you guys see anything?
Well, no, actually, I didn't bring my gear because I had just come from filming this new TV show I'm involved with. I had gone into LA, had been to Conscious Life Expo briefly, where I filled in and gave a lecture for a friend who wasn't able to make it as a speaker. So I filled in for her and lectured, and then ended up taping our TV show, Transcending Realities, with yours and my friend Ron James at his studio, Evolve TV. Anyways, I can talk more about that later. But I was there to do that. So because of all the various flights and having to fly into LA and then fly back to Phoenix, I didn't want to have all my equipment with me, my goggles, and have to lug them and be worried about them, security-wise and everything. So
that's a long explanation for feeling guilty.
Yeah,
all right. Okay. You're excused, Melinda. Okay. You presented your evidence. Okay.
So I did not have them with me.
Right. Because, this contact in the desert thing and that happened last year. We'll talk about that, once again later on in the show, because it was an extraordinary experience. But the one thing that I wanted to drive home, which I did in my little opening rant, is that I'm not so sure, because I study radio and television, and everybody that came before me. I listened to their shows constantly. Last night, I tortured Rita with about 5 or 6 Bill Cooper shows back to back as we went to bed. And because I study, I listen. And I'm not so sure, but I think that you and I, that was the first time that a national radio guy was there with everybody else to witness something like this, along with a documentary film crew that happened to be there all at the same time. it all, the stars and the moon aligned for us last year, and it was an extraordinary event. And I will continue to talk about it forever. I just think it was a moment in time, and we shared it together.
Well, I get so lucky because, I heard you say in the beginning, introducing me, 600 tours. Jimmy, I'm at 700 tours now.
Right,
Actually,
right.
To be exact, 695
Right.
UFO sighting tours. And only once did my clients feel they didn't have a sighting. The other 694 tours, my clients always thought they had sightings. So I've become kind of jaded. It's this kind of thing, like what happened for us out there. And I'm not overplaying it. It happens on my tours all the time. Now, granted that we had 3 nights of viewing out at Contact in the Desert last year. And this year at Contact in the Desert, May 19th through 22nd, I will again do 3 nights of viewing with everybody out at Orion's Lookout. And last year was the Saturday night where at roughly 10:20, there was a 10-minute window where we had 7 really up close and personal objects, in a 10-minute window of time. And it was really, really something. Large lights, most of them lit up bright green. There was one that was very amber colored, one that was very kind of like a periwinkle blue color. And it was just I don't need to tell you, obviously you've been talking about it. So it was an amazing event. And hopefully we'll get something as dramatic this year. But again, I get so lucky because this happens on my tours all the time. I mean, the sightings we had there that night just 2 weeks ago before I had to take off and go to LA, we had 2 nights in a row where we had what I call big light. We had great big amber colored light come over us. And I love how you described how it suddenly shot off into space and what you witnessed. We had that happen 2 nights ago. 2 nights in a row, 2 weeks ago on my tours, where we had great big amber light coming over us. All of a sudden it jumped 2 nights in a row, did the same thing, jumped to a high altitude where it just shot up and then was like a moving, star then, and it kept moving and then eventually disappeared. But just to see it go from right over us, very close, unfortunately not really close enough to see the structure of the craft, but just a great big low light, just jump up high real fast. Yeah, it was and like I say, that happens all the time on my tours.
Well, see, this is before I had done the night vision with you last year with Rita. Before that had happened, I had constantly interviewed people about this, right? And we talked about it. But until and the audience in general, the vast audience that we have, I would say in general, I don't know what the percentage is, but probably 99.9% has never experienced night vision. So they don't understand, its implications and what we are trying to drive home with this. I think most, until they assume that we're just seeing things, right? They haven't experienced what is truly going on. And when you get out there, and I would suggest in the strongest of terms for anybody, if you get the opportunity to look at up into the sky with night vision, do it. Do not play around. Just do it, because when you pull the night vision down off of your eyes after you've seen something and you're looking and there's nothing there, and then you go back to the night vision and you're seeing something, that's when it starts to grab you by the bootstraps and you realize that on any given moment, walking around and you look up at the sky, there is something there and you can't see it. And it's there, and it's there all the time. And I don't know how else to put it into words.
Well, exactly. And they'll get that chance in the 3 nights of sky watches out at Contact in the Desert with us. And hopefully at least one of those nights, Jimmy, you and Rita will come over and spend some time with me out there.
Oh, you can
again.
bet your sweet Bippy we're going to be there.
Yeah. And then if they come on my tours in Sedona, UFO sighting tours, a little shameless self-promotion here, UFOsightingtours.com takes you directly to my website where I've had 695 tours. And, first off, you see, whether you do it with us in Contact in the Desert, come to Sedona and do it with me. Either way, you'll see 50,000 times more light than you can see with your naked eye with the goggles. And that means you're seeing 50,000 times more stars than you see with your naked eyes. And then, and then we see things that stop, turn, change direction, like you said, come in low, shoot off. We see formations of objects together. It's really phenomenal. And we've seen fully structured craft. And that means like disc, large triangles. On 6 tours, we've had great big triangles right over us. We've had discs on a bunch of times. We've had a boomerang shapes. We've had a big diamond shape. We've had big spherical shapes. So complete structure. And the last time was a couple months ago. We had a big silver cylinder come over us, like a cigar ship shape, famous in ufology there, that term. But we had that shape, that silver cylinder cigar ship shape. And so on 17 of the tours, we've seen fully structured craft. And all the other times we're seeing lights, some of them at high altitude and some of them very low, like the 2 sightings I just shared. But, and certainly, that we'll have that experience again, and that opportunity anyways, on 3 separate nights out at Contact in the Desert.
Now, there is one other thing I want to drive home that I've mentioned this in the past, but I was thinking about this today. It really, when we talk about structured craft, okay, there's something that I need to drive home with everybody. I've always described it as a green chrome Christmas ornament, right? This thing that we all saw together. Well, anyway, as this thing was taking off and shooting across the tops of the mountains, there were high-powered lasers that some of the witnesses had, and as I'm looking at the craft in the night vision, the lasers would accidentally touch the craft, right?
Yeah.
And when what I saw, this is what blew my mind probably the most, because it's okay. It's traveling really, really, really fast, and so the odds of somebody actually touching it with a laser, that's pure luck. The craft is moving too fast. The lasers are unstable. They're handheld, but when they did hit the craft, I saw the reflection of the laser on the side of the craft, and it sparkled and indicated to me that it was a solid object, and it was chrome, just like I was seeing with my own eyes.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, on my tour one night, like the next week after coming home after the conference, I was explaining that to some of my clients out one night, and I took one of the lasers and I said it reflected off the back like this, and I was shining at the back of one of our parked cars out there next to us on the tour.
Right.
And the laser hit the clear part of the reflective tail light, and which is highly reflective and multifaceted with plastic in front of, a silver backing. And the laser hit it, and it did that sparkle effect. And I went, oh my God. And my clients were like, what? I said, it looked exactly like that. So now on my tours, because we're always out next to our cars, I hit the back of the car and I show people what it looked like. So anyone who's gone on my tour with me has had this demonstration where I said the lasers hit them. And even though we were seeing large lit up objects, they weren't quite close enough to see the structure. So if someone says, well, was it a disc or was it a triangle? We were seeing a large light. Obviously, though, we had highly reflective, metallic, multifaceted surfaces to cause that sparkle effect. When the lasers ran across the surface, they did that sparkle just like the tail light on the car when I hit it. And that means we clearly had highly reflective, like I said, multifaceted surfaces to cause that effect.
Right, and a solid object.
Yes, absolutely.
And I still can't wrap my head around what it is that we saw. And when somebody tries to squeeze that out of me, back to my point that I made earlier, I can only report exactly what I saw, right? That's it. Nothing more than that. I don't know if it was ET or if it was ET technology, if it was experimental craft. What I do know is that what I saw and what we all saw together we are not told about that technology, whatever it is. That is something that we know nothing about. And certainly, if this was common knowledge, this wouldn't be a big deal, and my mind wouldn't have been as blown as it was. Sure. But I can't explain it. Now,
Jimmy, and I'm so lucky because I get to provide that experience to people all the time. I just, as you know, the last couple of days, as we just talked about, I was at International UFO Congress. I had so many past clients of mine. People were coming up to me. Now, as I said, I've done 695 tours, but I had people coming up to me saying, we were on tour 250 something, or one couple said we were on tour number 421. Another group said 500 and something. No joke. I had so many people who are past clients of mine coming up to me, and I do this all the time, but yet it was so meaningful. And I actually went in the women's restroom and it was verklempt and had a moment where I actually was in tears in the women's restroom because I was so moved by having people come up and say and share just what you're sharing now, that this was a life-changing event with them, that having the sightings, they now know it's real, and yes, I hear that from clients out on the tour, but at the Congress, to have 100 clients over 4 days come up and say, maybe not that many, but let's say I had at least 30 come up to me and say that to me and talk about, and go on and on about the night they went out with me and what they experienced. And it was really moving to hear so much of that. And I love providing. I mean, it made me realize that what I'm doing is so important. You talked all about disclosure earlier. It's a cliche in ufology to say seeing is believing.
Right.
But there's nothing like having your own sighting, and to hear from all those clients and how it affected their lives and how important it was to them, and to hear you. I mean, it's extremely rewarding every time I hear you talk about it because. I love providing that experience to people.
Well, here's the thing. Can you imagine what Orion's Lookout is going to be like this year? After
crazy, man.
It's going to be nuts. And one of the things I'm looking forward to doing when when I do my panel on Saturday, at the amphitheater, I'm going to ask everybody there, who was here last year. on Saturday. Yeah. Who was here last year for Orion's Lookout? And I want to see the show of hands. And then I am literally going to ask who is going to be out at Orion's tonight, right? Mm-hmm. Because that is a shared experience. I am serious, Melinda. 10 years from now, people are going to talk about what happened last year at Contact in the Desert.
Sure. I think with any luck, it was particularly good. And I want people to know, I, of course, have no control over it. And just like when they come on my tours, everyone wants to see structured craft. And it's happened 17 out of 695. But we still have real sightings. We see things in formations and things that make right angle turns, and so people coming to Contact in the Desert, going out one of those 3 nights, and if you were there the Saturday of the night in the middle last year, and we had that happen, I'm saying, yes, we're certainly going to hope that happens again, but don't necessarily expect it to be like that. It's always different. It could be better. We could have structured craft, or we may not have something as dramatic, but we always have sightings. Even, we're talking about the Saturday night, that Friday night, and then the workshop I did out Giant Rock on the Sunday night. We had sightings all those nights, and multiple sightings and things in formations beyond just what happened. And we had started it, at 7:30 at night, having sightings on Saturday, and it was at 10:20 that the major event happened. But we had a bunch of sightings up until then. So, but those were particularly good. I want you to know too. I ended up looking up on Google Earth and finding out that hill, and that hill that they were coming over in the distance had radio towers on it. So I was able to find it on Google Earth and where we were on Orion's Lookout. And I drew the line. It was exactly 1.98 miles away. So exactly 2 miles away.
Right.
And they came over that hill, and they were so brightly lit, they were casting light on the hills. They came over it. So they were very low, skimming that hill. And that hill was only maybe, probably less than 1,000 feet in height. It was a little mountain in the distance, so maybe 1,000 feet up, maybe, less than 2,000 feet up, probably 700 or 1,000 feet in height. And then the, the lights coming over it, casting on it, and from 2 miles away. So that was particularly close, particularly dramatic.
I've tried to imagine or tried to calculate in my mind how big this ball was, because at 2 miles away, for it to be as big as, for me to see it with my naked eye, it had to, it was huge. Yes. I don't know if it was 100 feet in diameter, if it was 200 feet in diameter, but when I looked at it on the map and I saw where Orion's was in proximity to my left, where the ridge was, the mountain or whatever, the hill.
Yes.
If that's 2 miles away, and that's exactly where I saw the sphere, how big was this thing? I don't know. I can tell you this. It wasn't 2 feet across. It wasn't the size of a basketball. This thing was huge, and it had structure. It was extraordinary. I'm just so glad for you and for myself and for everybody else out there. I want to drive this home, that we all saw this together. We don't have to invent or create or make something that it wasn't. We just have to say exactly what we saw, and we all saw it together, and I'm glad that we did. Now, we're going to head towards a break here. What I wanted to do tonight is talk about MILABS. And the reason why, because I think that all of this ties together. Well, of course it does, but it all ties together. And what I mean by that is extraordinary things like this are happening, and we've seen them together, and we know that there is something strange going on out there. And then when we bring in the MILABS aspect to it, I think that everything is related. You have been researching this and an experiencer yourself over the years.
Yeah, well, and I'm so fortunate that I have some upcoming events. One of them, of course, is we're talking about contact in the desert. Not only am I doing, I'm going to be busy there, Jimmy. Not only am I doing, and so will you for that matter, but am I doing the 3 nights of sky watches with the night vision goggles, but I'm also doing a lecture all about my MILAB research, an hour-long lecture introductory into exactly where my research is currently at and what's currently happening in it, and all the cases I've worked with and the evidence, etc. And then I'm also doing a discussion group for people who've had covert human agency involvement in their abduction and contact experiences, and who've had harassment and surveillance and monitoring, everything that goes with it. And this is going to be like only, like the first time I've ever done a discussion group, a support group for people specifically on that subject. And I'm so excited to be offering that. And I ask that anyone out there, if you're coming to Contact in the Desert, or I'm also speaking at UFO Con in the Bay Area, San Francisco, coming up in March. If you're coming to those, please come to the discussion groups. If you've had an experience, if you've had harassment, surveillance, monitoring, if you've had the re-abduction, if you've seen covert human agencies, military or doctors, whatever, with your ETs, again, we're about to get all into that, but I'm so excited to be offering that discussion group and having the chance for people to be able to share their own accounts, and quite frankly, to learn and to experience that they're not alone. A lot of people with alien abduction and alien contact experiences are having this happen.
Well, now, for the audience that may not know what we're talking about, what is MILABS? What is that definition?
Okay, well, that's an acronym. And the truth is, I just had this whole discussion with Yvonne Smith and some other researchers at Congress. As a matter of fact, okay, what that is, it's military, MIL, and AB for abduction. So it means military abduction. It's become a catch-all phrase to mean anytime there's any covert human agency, whether that's military or intelligence or otherwise, involved in the life of the abductee. It tends to make a lot of people think it just means being abducted by the military. No. Well, yes, but that's just a tiny, small fraction of what happens to people. And so I've started to use the terminology just because I think it's more accurate to say a covert human agency involvement with abductees and contactees. But the important thing is covert human agency involvement, because to me that encapsulates all of it.
Okay, and so we've got 2 minutes. Let's break this down into categories. So for the military, why would the military be involved in an abduction?
Well, oh boy, we only have 2 minutes to answer that?
well, see, we have and I totally agree with you. We have 3 or 4 or 5 different segments, almost infinite, actually. It could actually broaden out. But for the first part of it, military abductions. Okay,
well, again, it's so much more than that. It starts with, so let me explain this in ways so people can wrap their head around it if they're unfamiliar with all of it. It starts with low-grade harassment and surveillance. I actually have, in my PowerPoint presentation when I do lectures, I have this one slide that's this curve, and I actually have it up in front of me right now so I can look at it and explain it. It's like a curved line that's an arrow with an arrow going one direction one and one the other, and it goes along the bottom and then curves up. So if you just imagine a big curve. And it starts with, not with an ET abduction, but going back in people's lives and their families. First off, it's well known in abduction research that alien abductions go back in families. They're following a genetic lineage. That's well established in abduction research. If you're an abductee, it's very common to find out it happened to your parents, your grandparents. You're an abductee, you have kids, it often happens to your kids. So even ET abduction goes back before you have your quote initial, abduction experience. It can go back in your family. Well, so does the covert involvement. A lot of times people have family members, now not just family members in military. I mean, anyone that's yours and my age, Jimmy, our fathers and grandfathers served in the military. That's very common. So not just that, but for instance, intelligence community backgrounds, aerospace community backgrounds, technology development for the military or military intelligence community backgrounds, and branches of the military. And so it gets into this deepening involvement going back in someone's family and background. And so what it's shown me now is just like alien abductions run back in families, so does a covert involvement. And then it goes forward. So that's how it can kind of start. It's like you're having the experience. Then at some point, you're the alien abductee. And I admit, I focus my research on people who've had alien abduction experiences who then get targeted because of that.
Okay,
now, there are other areas of
Melinda, we need to take a break right here. Okay. Let's take a break. We'll pick up on the alien side of it when we come back. Our guest tonight, Melinda Leslie. This is Fade to Black. We're discussing MILABS. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. More with Melinda right after this short break. Stay with us, everybody.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Kat Deely, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com. Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Well, we are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Don't worry, I got my pipes. I got coffee. This segment of Fade to Black is brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Just go to the banners right now at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Click promo code F2B blend. You're going to get 50% off of your order because you are a Fadernaut. Now, during the break, we lost Melinda. And we cannot get her back. I don't know what's going on. And we are trying to raise her right now. And I don't know what's going on. Just dropped completely. Very bizarre. So I'm going to try to raise her right now. No, still cannot get her back. And there you go. I'm waiting to hear something back too. Rita is working on the reset. Very bizarre. Lost Melinda right as we started to talk about MILABS, right? Boom, gone. Have no idea. Clean connections, too. Everything was fine and just dropped. So while we are trying to get her back, the important thing, let's see her. Okay, all right. Well, I'll try again. Wow, this is bizarre. Bizarre. I normally say, this is live radio, but that was, okay, I got it. Huh. Okay, so Melinda is rebooting her system, so we'll get her back here shortly. The point that I was trying to make, that I want everybody to understand, all of this is connected. When I am talking to somebody about abductions or experiencing different aspects of it, that all of this is connected. And after, okay, let me back up for a second. I have spoken many times about the different sightings that I have had over the years. Rita and I have had a couple together, too, as well. All of that is fine, right? But when we go and we have this mass sighting that we've had and all of this together, it begs to ask the question, what is really going on here, right? What is going on? I need to collect information. That's why I drove these emails home with all of you tonight. Is this? There is something going on, and you understand that I get that. And when somebody said, "Well, what about this experience, or what about this person, or who do I trust? Who do I believe here?" Again, we need to listen to everybody. There's something strange going on. You know, and just like right now with Melinda, where we're talking about this very important subject, right? Right now, boom, she goes offline. I don't get that. You know, I just don't get it. For years, I did sports talk radio. I never had any issues. I had no issues with not only with my guest or what I was talking about, but also technical issues. Never had problems. None. And then here we go. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. No. Okay. I'm just going to wait. Yeah. Very, 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 very strange. All right. You know what? I'll open up the phone lines while we're waiting for Melinda to get back to us. I can see here that she is working on it. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. I'll take a couple of quick phone calls. And if you were out at the International UFO Congress, give us a call. I do want to know how that event went. And there you go. Also, Eric has got his Gen 2. I'm fully jealous about this. Eric, if you're available, give us a call. All right? Okay. Now, a couple of things I wanted to... man, I'm starting to lose my voice again. Nah. Really? Nah. Coffee. Gotta do it. North Korea's envoy to Malaysia has denied now that the man killed at Kuala Lumpur airport last week was the half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Kim Fatty Fat, saying that the Malaysian police's murder investigation cannot be trusted. I'm not making this up. This happened today. The comment, which came hours after the CCTV footage of the attack emerged, by the way, I've seen it, was the actual first official statement issued by the North Korean's representative of the murder of the man identified by the Malaysian authorities as Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's estranged elder half-brother. The video, and it's crazy too, shows a woman approaching the man from behind. You can see her. She wipes his face with a cloth. And then she turns around and walks away into the crowd. That's when you see the LOL shirt. The man died afterwards, but he's walking through the airport, and the footage is following him. It's absolutely nuts to see this go down. Shows him walking into the clinic, speaking to everybody. And what's chilling about this footage is that he's going to die in an ambulance a few minutes later. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing good. Who's this?
Hey, this is Captain.
Hey, Captain, how you doing?
Okay, you have a very interesting guest tonight, Melinda Leslie of MILABS. And I'm going to tell you this. Would you please ask her, are there any celebrities that are involved in MILABS?
Oh, that's a good question. All right. Yeah. Any celebrities. And why would you ask that?
Because there have been several individuals that have been very much involved in MILABS, abductees. Britney Spears is one of them. And it wouldn't put it past me if the one that's married to the very, what's that young lady? The one who had her jewelry stolen in Paris, France.
Kardashian.
Kardashian. Not Kardashian, but the husband.
Right. Kanye.
Yeah, Kanye West. It wouldn't surprise me. Because, see, what happened is a video came out about 3 months ago where all these celebrities were in the bed lying next to each other. And please ask her about that particular video because I believe that a lot of celebrities were involved in abductee.
I could see Kanye being an abductee. I'll go with that. Certainly he's been acting strange lately. But then again,
yes, he has.
That whole family is not really in touch with reality. But MILABS, Illuminati, cabal, craziness, possible. Absolutely a possibility. So, yeah, yes. I find that interesting.
By the way, too, I want to say that our friend is still alive and well, and he's living in Cuba. His name is the rapper, who they thought was dead, but he's alive and well in Cuba.
Who?
What's his name?
Tupac?
Tupac, yes.
Tupac is in...
And he's living in Cuba.
What evidence do you have of that?
Well, listen, I want to talk to you offline on that, if you would. So just give me a call offline. You have my number, okay?
Okay. So Tupac is living in Cuba. Isn't his mom in Cuba or no? Who? Yeah. Okay. I gotta wrap my head around that. Okay.
He's alive and well. I want to talk to you after the show or sometime this week. Give me a call because I'm gonna give you some startling information concerning about certain people, and it's gonna surprise you.
Wow. Tupac alive in Cuba. Is he recording?
No, he's not. But I do want to say that he is alive and well, just like a lot of other people who suddenly have disappeared, so-called fake their deaths, but they're alive and well. So I'll talk to you after the call.
Okay. All right. Why do you think a celebrity, especially like Tupac, would fake his death? Are they tired of celebrity? They're just exhausted?
No, because of the stories behind Tupac, the story behind Prince. There's so much I can just talk about.
You think Prince is still alive?
No, Prince is dead.
Prince is dead.
But I have a very strong suspicion behind his death. And why? And then, like I said, Dick Gregory talks about that. So you may want to get a hold of one of those Dick Gregory's videos because he talks about that type of stuff. And I really, truly believe that certain celebrities are very much involved in MILABS.
Interesting. Yeah, I've thought about that a little bit. And thank you for the phone call, Captain. And I will definitely get this. I'll get this question in. Thank you so much.
All right. You're quite welcome, sir. Thank you.
You got it. Yeah, I've often thought about that as well. Okay, let me see here. Hold on for a second. Let me see if I can do this to raise Melinda. I'm going to pull this off. Let's see if I can get her. I've often thought about that. I think I got Melinda back. Melinda, are you there?
Yes, you have me on my cell phone.
Man, what kind of craziness is going on? All you got to do is drop MILABS.
Why am I not surprised?
Right?
Given what I'm talking about, I think everyone who knows me out there went, uh-huh. Yeah, my internet went poof. I'm sitting in my office at the Center for the New Age in Sedona.
Right.
And because this is the best place for me to get a really strong signal for being on Skype. And all of a sudden it cut me off the internet. Now when I'm going on my computer, and I even turned my computer off and rebooted and everything, it won't let me connect to the internet here. It's not even bringing it up as an option.
Wow.
Yeah. The internet went poof. And I am calling the owner of the Center for New Age and our IS guy, our computer guy, say, and they're not answering, but I'm leaving them both messages saying, call me on my cell right away. There is a backup here, and I'm going to see if I can get on the backup, but I don't know the code for that.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. We're good. We're connected now. Okay, so where we were, I actually got I took a phone call while we were away, and Captain wanted to know if there are any celebrities that are involved in MILABS.
Well, if there are, we're not hearing about it. Yes, I'll say this much. I have heard of a few cases of people who've maybe had some stuff happen. Right. I haven't really verified some of that, but yes, I have heard of some cases. Yes.
Okay, before the break, we were talking about the military aspect of it, but then we started to get into the actual ET side of MILABS and abductions, and that's where we left off.
I was trying to explain to people how it someone's trying to, one of my friends I think is trying to call me on my phone. All of a sudden I heard that. Everyone, if you're a friend of mine out there, I'm on my cell phone, leave me alone. So going back to what I was saying. So I was trying to explain how it unfolds in someone's life. And then what happens is they have the alien abduction, and then at some point they become of interest to covert human agencies. And it could be, of course, initially I thought, well, it's an abductee who's gone public, right? Who starts getting threats or warnings or intimidation to not be public or something like that. But then in my research early on, it started to be where I was getting these accounts from people who had never gone public. They had never done a radio interview, television. They'd never even talked to anyone. Some of them had never even talked to a major abduction researcher, and yet they were having this happen. And I realized that they were monitoring. It's kind of twofold. One is that they're monitoring craft coming and going, and they know if craft are repeating to a certain area over and over again. Additionally, they monitor our phones, thanks to Snowden and other sources. We know that. And so I think they're looking for this. And as well as, like I said, it runs back in families. So I think depending on your family background and connections, you could be already someone who's flagged. And then they're looking for those abductees who might have an experience or information that they're interested in. If you're an abductee who has technical information, if you have ever sat at the controls of a ship and flown it, if you've been shown technology, if you've been, like Stan Romanek, if you've gotten lots of mathematical formulas downloaded, if you've gotten alien languages, if you've received information from the ETs about Earth changes, about the alien motives, these are all things that they show interest in. When I say they, I mean these covert intelligence and military agencies. And then what happens is they monitor the abductees as far as, like, for instance, you can have phone harassment surveillance. You can have black helicopter harassment surveillance. You can be watched and followed. Some people have vans parked outside their house or other vehicles with tinted windows. Maybe somebody is photographing you coming and going. You start to be monitored. They're surveilling you. They're thinking you're a person of interest. And then at some point in your abduction, besides having ongoing possible harassment surveillance, you might have an experience then where you have an ET abduction, but you see military personnel or people in lab coats or doctors in a medical unit or something combined with your ETs. So in other words, suddenly you have a human involvement. And then at some point you might have what we call the reabduction, where you have ET experiences, but suddenly you have a human experience where, as opposed to being removed or abducted by humans, you then are removed or abducted by ETs, you then are removed or abducted by humans. So it can ramp up, but it doesn't just start with that. Now, sometimes someone is unaware that they're being surveilled or they've brushed it off. And so sometimes it's the quite, overt, in your face of seeing people in military uniforms or seeing doctors in your abduction that then makes you go, wait a second, what's this? But for a lot of abductees, it starts with the low-grade surveillance kind of things that are going on. There's stuff going on their phone, weird noises on their phone, interruptions in calls, interruptions in computer stuff, like what we just had happen, And this kind of thing can happen. And then the abductee, might have their mail tampered with, their snail mail, can have their computer tampered with, etc. And so it kind of ramps up, and then it becomes more involved in their life. And I used to think you had surveillance, and then all of a sudden you had an abduction with military involved, and that's kind of as far as it went. And now in my research, that's like the middle of the road. There's so many things that can happen beyond that.
One of the things that is frightening to me is probably more frightening than an actual ET abduction, right? Okay. Which sounds, frightening in general. But what would be more sinister than that would be our own government staging an abduction on somebody and having them feel that the abduction is real, right? And it's a total staged event in order to extract information from a previous real ET abduction. You know what I mean?
Well, sure. Okay. You're right and you're not right in what you're saying. And let me explain. That happens, yes. That it's not that they're faking alien abductions. I have not come across that. I've worked with well over 100 cases. People are very clear when they're having an alien abduction. It's the alien environment. There's alien procedures. It's otherworldly. Things look differently. Lighting is different. There's this whole feeling about it that, and they have all these things happen that are common in alien experiences. When they have a covert involvement abduction, it's very human. If the abductee is remembering it, they're remembering people. They're remembering what they're wearing. They're remembering, the uniforms and the lab attire. They're remembering a human environment. They're seeing human lighting, human door fixtures, human door handles, linoleum flooring, different things that make them go, wait, this is humans. I'm in a human environment. And usually I don't have to elicit that from someone. They're very clear at the difference. So I don't get humans perpetrating an ET abduction where people are thinking, oh, it's really ETs. I'm not getting that. It's night and day. It's so different. And that's what's so startling and so stark to the abductee is that realization how different it is. And I guess what I'm trying to drive home here is that that our own government would be a part of this. When somebody says, well, they would never do that. Well, yes, they would, and they are, and it is going on right now, and there's plenty of evidence of this going on in the past, too, as well. And I think, like I said, I think that's more sinister to me than an actual ET abduction. I understand why ET would abduct somebody, because
That's what we do as humans. We go out and we study the environment. We're going to Mars and we're checking things out. It's what we do, right? So I understand that.
Well, and also the ET abductions, the evidence is overwhelming in support of, yes, many things happen, but it is still overwhelming. That's the production of hybrids, the taking of eggs from women, ovum, and sperm from men, and producing these hybrid beings. That seems to be this genetic, which is not a sexual thing, people. It's genetics. It's creating hybrids. It's a genetic program that seems to be, granted, other things happen, but that comes up so consistently in the cases still to this day. I mean, yes, many other things happen, but other things can happen along with that, but that seems to be kind of really one of the significant common denominators in the extraterrestrial abduction. So whatever the ETs are doing, it's this production of hybrids. Now, we could get into all sorts of theories about why that might be.
Right.
The truth is, no one really knows, okay?
Right.
But in the abductions, with this other stuff that people also experience, first off, so a covert agency, with abductions happening to millions of people around the world. I mean, 2 different Roper polls suggested numbers that were close to 4 million people in the continental U.S. alone.
Right.
All the major abduction research, agencies and organizations around the world are coming up with huge numbers, okay? And some of these are documented, investigated cases in the tens of thousands in some of these in many of these organizations. So you look at this and you go, okay, let's even say that those 2 Roper polls that came up with numbers close to 4 million people. You go, okay, this is happening to a lot of people. It stands to reason that covert human intelligence agencies are also seeing those numbers, and are realizing and would have an interest in those individuals. Now, whatever this hybrid thing is, that you have a creation of these beings. Many of these beings are being seen here in daily situations by the abductees on Earth, besides on ship. So you would think a covert agency would say, well, what's that about? Why are they creating this? What is that? Additionally, in the management of the ET information, you talked about disclosure before the show, and I was getting a kick out of hearing you talk about it. But one of the reasons, clearly, if not maybe even the reason, there's no disclosure, obviously the abduction thing being very problematic. And so how do they get into that discussion?
Right.
Probably won't.
Right.
And it may not reflect well on abductees. So I think in abduction research, abductees' rights issues needs to really be discussed, and I'm seeing that being brought up more and more in the abduction groups, and certainly Yvonne Smith just addressed that in her talk at International Congress this last week. So, but I think that's where abduction research is going, is into that discussion, because when disclosure does happen, that's going to matter. But separately, the reason it's, as I said, that being aside, what I think is one of the main reasons there's no disclosure is that they're profiting from it. It's the development of the technology. It's the secret space program. It is crash retrievals, reverse engineering the technology, both from naturally crashed and shot down craft and lone craft, however they might get it. That technology is being developed. It's being fed to corporations. It's being fed to covert military. One insider.
Well, we got to
years ago.
We have to take a break right here. We're right up against it, so let's do that, and we'll pick this up on the backside. Our guest tonight, Melinda Leslie. Now, Melinda, don't blow up your system during the break, okay? We'll be right back. More with Melinda right after this break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRAradio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest, layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
I have actually been on Balance of Nature for a year now. I have MS, and I recently had an MRI. This is the first year that I've had a stable MRI, so I'm thrilled. When I have an MRI with MS, usually there are glowing spots that come through, which is damage on the nerves in my brain and my spinal cord, and when they're glowing, it means they're active. And then my last MRI, they pulled it up, and I honestly couldn't believe that it was my MRI. There was nothing glowing. And in fact, the dark spots were shrinking. They were healing. And the doctor actually said to me, I think we're in remission. I was so happy. I had no idea that that could be my reality.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Melinda Leslie. Tomorrow night, Dr. Michael Salla is going to be here. Wednesday night is Ouija night. Karen Dahlman. Man, full week this week. Thursday night's Fader night. Friday night, I'm over at Coast to Coast. My guest will be Corey Good. And then I'll be continuing on with Coast on Saturday night. Melinda, you bring up a really, really good point. And I don't think it's been really fully addressed, and I'm glad that you brought it up, which is this: victims' rights, right? Disclosure comes, and they admit to this, and the next thing you know, like you said, in that Roper report poll, which was I remember when that number came out, right? And and also another poll of theirs, I think it was 70%. 70% of people in the United States believe that we've been visited, right? These are extraordinary numbers. Now, if disclosure comes and we get what we wish for, that's something that has to be addressed. Victims' rights, man. Everybody's going to step up and go, wait a minute here. You mean I am now a victim? Right? And there's got to be everything that comes along with that, right? Compensation, insurance, right? Are we going to be having to pick up insurance for alien abductions?
Yeah, maybe. But,
right.
You know, no, well, of course. And abductees' rights, given this scenario, because you're talking about extraterrestrials or interdimensionals, whatever they are, their involvement with the planet in such a big scale and the production of the hybrids that this is a problem. And I get very concerned about how this will reflect on abductees. Are abductees and contactees suddenly seen as some kind of security threat? And I don't want anyone to laugh. I mean, these are issues that being someone who is an abductee myself, working with so many people that are, I'm concerned that how is disclosure going to reflect on us? So it needs to be addressed, and I think ufology and abduction research needs to kind of have a game plan for how does this affect us and how could we be perceived. Heaven forbid we be seen as any kind of threat in any way because we're in communication with this other unknown, So I don't want that to sound silly. I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and I think it's the future of abduction research. But my point was that with abductees experiencing this technology, having hands-on, flying it, navigating it, being shown advanced math, advanced languages, alien sciences, and also another thing that the covert-ops are interested in besides those things is the abductees' paranormal abilities, abductees' psi abilities. They do psychokinesis, affecting and moving matter with their mind, telekinesis, moving matter, telepathy, all these kinds of abilities that are common in the abductees and common in the abduction experience. When I started to say that the disclosure problem and them not disclosing, it's a policy of non-disclosure, and one insider was once quoted as saying that it is the goose that laid the golden egg for black projects. This never-ending source of funding for, if you think about these large underground installations and the billions, if not trillions of dollars, the funding of those, the reverse engineering of the technology, the applying it to state-of-the-art covert technology, that nobody wants their projects and their funding to go away. I think we're not getting disclosure because it is this factor of theirs. They need to. We need to step forward as a planet together, as a galactic civilization, obviously get off not only the petrodollar, but get off our dependency on those fuels and to get the free energy devices and technology out there. So there are those on the inside who feel that people need to be brought up to speed. Now, a research friend of mine, Randy Kopeng, has done extensive work into this idea of it being a planned slow disclosure. That what we are getting, and we all talk about disclosure with the big D, that main announcement, and I believe that will happen. Certainly, it'll eventually happen, and I hope, Jimmy, it happens in yours and the listeners' lives.
Right.
But the small D disclosure, which isn't just movies and TV and media, whatever, that's always been there. But I think, and yes, that's also being used. I don't want to, diminish that importance and that it plays a role. Yes, but I think it's that there's been this plan to, as Randy says, enculturate people, to indoctrinate us into the whole idea where it becomes ETs are so accepted in society that then when they do make an announcement, we don't go berserk. We're ready for it. Some people think we're ready for it now. I think we're in disclosure in that it's a 20 or 40-year plan, probably a 40 or 50-year plan, but we're in it, and that they're disclosing all the time. More and more insiders, more and more whistleblowers are saying that they were told to come out and say something. Even, you mentioned you're going to have Corey on your Coast show. He even says that. Many of these people are saying, I was told to come out and say this, or I'm told what parts I can say. And some of those people say, I'm holding back on parts that I know will get me or my family killed, but there are parts that I'm being told to say. We're getting an increase in this. we're getting an increase in information and documents released. Talk about an increase, the amount of documents hitting, and even in the last couple of weeks, more CIA documents coming out, etc. I think this is all on scale, that this is how disclosure is happening. But it gets back to how it relates to my research, is not only seeing that happening, but realizing to the degree this is so ingrained, these underground bases, these reverse engineering programs, the development of the technology, that I could see why those folks immediately involved in that don't want their part of the game to end. And then their interest in the abductees, as I said, yes, they're questioning this whole hybrid thing. Why is that going on? The motive of the ETs. Why are they here? What are they doing? And then also, as I said, that side component. What are the abductees' abilities? But the technology, all abductees report that the technology, the craft, and every aspect of the craft and every aspect of the abduction has this consciousness component, this mental interface, the fact that it all responds to what you think and to your mind. Abductees are able to do that. Whatever it is the ETs do with you, they tweak that in you. You have that ability. It's a part of the experience. No wonder these covert guys, as they're developing that technology and realizing they need pilots who can fly the crafts they're developing, they need people who can interact with this otherworldly technology and this crash retrieve, that somewhere along the way, someone figured out abductees were a really good source for that information.
Yeah, and I look at it. We're in a strange catch-22, Melinda, and I'll tell you how. If I think that disclosure is only controlled by ET himself. It's only going to happen if he wants it to. And let me explain. If we're not ready, and we do have the big D disclosure by Washington, right? And ET is here, and ET cuts us off. That's it, right? We're done. If we're not ready for it, it's under ET's control, is what I'm saying.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and so we need to really be careful with that, because on the flip side, he's letting us know that, or she, right, is letting us know that he's here because we saw what we saw at Contact in the Desert, didn't we? Right? So we understand that part of it. It's like this, slow. I like that slow exposure. And when we're ready, we're going to be ready. And he'll know, or they'll know. I keep saying he. I don't mean it like that. But it's under his control, right? And if we're not ready for it and somebody slips up and makes a mistake and he cuts us off, we're screwed, right? So,
well, I think we're passing that line, and I think because it's been this slow enculturation, because it's been a slow development of the information coming out, that it's on the increase, and so that's why I'm saying I'm seeing it ramp up. I think it's very likely within yours and my life we'll see the disclosure with the big D. I think it's inevitable. Of course, the ETs are the unknown in this. Yes, they could be directing the whole thing, as you just stated, but also there could be that mass flyover, that mass event. I mean, at Congress this year, they celebrated the anniversary of the Phoenix Lights and had some of the witnesses there up on stage talking. It was an incredible event. They had multiple lectures about it. And the Phoenix Lights was this huge craft flown over Phoenix, seen by thousands of people. And just imagine if that happened in multiple cities at once, or if it happened over a number of days repeatedly. I mean, the ETs are the unknown factor in here that they could disclose. And something like that could happen, but yet they don't. And so therefore, I think you're right that they're somehow that this is following their agenda. And again, in these underground bases, in these experiences that the abductees have, it is so common to see ETs and humans working together. So you go, well, wait a second, they're working with them. Well, someone asked me over the weekend, and they said, well, if they're working with them, why do they need to know information? And I'm like, well, it could be they're not working with all the groups. They're working with just one or two of the groups, and the other groups they have questions about. And just because they're working with them doesn't mean they're getting all the information. Again, if the ETs are controlling this flow of information, as you just said, then it would stand to reason that those individuals involved in those covert agencies and in those positions working with them may not be getting the full story.
Let me ask
again,
you.
Their interest in abductees, therefore, then makes sense that they see us as, wait a second, these folks are involved with the ETs. They have that experience, that consciousness, that connection. Maybe there's something about them we need to know. And then what is it about them? And I always say, and it said this on the write-up on your website, that I talk about that they are reverse engineering the abductees, just
Right.
like they gather craft
Right.
and reverse engineer it, meaning figure out how it works, how can we apply it to technology. They're doing the same thing with the ETs. How does this work? How does this happen? Can we apply what they know to our technology? But maybe even more importantly, like the reverse engineering the craft is about the technology, what if reverse engineering the abductee is about the personnel? How do we train personnel to interact with the ETs? How do we train personnel to fly or operate other types of technology? And what is it the abductees know? And to me, it starts to make sense why the covert-ops or MILAB events happen. They're monitoring the abductees for everything we just talked about.
Right. And what's fascinating here is, do all abductees know that they were abducted?
Of course not. I found out in 1989 it had happened my whole life. Now, retrospectively, some particular events when I was a young child and as a teenager that I brushed off as paranormal, or I had missing time and I didn't know what to make of it, so I just forgot about it, suddenly makes sense. I mean, there was one time driving with my family across the desert, a significant period of missing time, and my dad getting out to my grandmother's house, even though he left what should have been hours after us, he got out there before us. How could that happen? They had the police out going down the highway looking for us. They never saw our car, so our car was missing when we thought we had ran out of gas on the highway. And I go, wait a second. The only thing that would make that make sense is there was an abduction there.
Right,
and
right.
Other things. So I can point to multiple things, but I did not learn until 1989. So someone can find out, and this is quite often the case. As an adult, they find out that they're an abductee and they're having abductions, and then they go back and remember childhood and teenage and young adult experiences where they realize, wait a second, this actually happened their whole life.
I was abducted at a Van Halen concert once, but that's another story. There's
what was her name? No,
yeah, right. But there's another aspect to this too, and I hear this so much. It's that somebody that has had an experience, but quite frankly, has never talked about it. They know that it's happened, that their wives, their children, their husbands, their family, their friend, nobody knows about it, and they've never discussed it. And how many of those are running around, right? If this Roper poll, says 4 million.
Many more than was ever talked about. I mean, very few people, but the fear of ridicule. Most people don't want to go public. It's really tough.
Right.
I mean, it's really, really tough, and you have to be strong. And so it's very rare for any abductee to be public in any way. The public people are a handful, and yet abductions happen in the millions. So people don't go public. A lot of people don't even talk to their families. It can be rough. Not only is there the fear of ridicule, unfortunately, there really is ridicule, so it's really tough for people. And so most people don't share it. People are, when they first realize they're having experiences, are trying to figure out what's going on. Did it really happen? Am I alone? That's where it's so important to not only work with someone who's in the field, in the research field, who can help you, but also to get in a support group where you go, okay, I'm not alone. There's other people having the same thing happen. That, you know, you may think something that happened to you, you're the only one that had it happen. You get in a support group, you realize 20 other people in the group had the same thing. And that's really important to have that support, to have that sense of, you know, peace of mind and people you can talk to. It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and that's when I think about, you know, the Men in Black phenomena, right? It has not only does it has to be real, they are necessary. Just like you are saying, and hear me out on this. If somebody goes public and says that they've had an experience, right, that something went down, the Men in Black have to be there. They've got to go and collect that information. Like you're saying, maybe it's a download. Maybe you saw something. Maybe there were some symbols. Maybe you were told something. But the Men in Black part of things, they are necessary. They are going to find out who you are, and they're going to try to extract vital information that you may have been given. This is part of the phenomenon.
Well, and it just shows that there are these covert human agencies interested in it and trying to get a handle on it. No, I'm not giving excuses for them. They're going about it all wrong. It's obviously, you know, illegal, immoral, and unconstitutional, and, you know, I could go on and on. But I understand the motivation, even if they're going about it all wrong. But being that they're operating in secrecy outside the Constitution, outside of the surface government,
right? So
therefore, they're outside of those things applying to them. It doesn't make it right. It's just the way it is. And so, you know, here you have the poor abductee, the person who's already trying to come to terms with their alien experiences, get on with their life, live their life, not lose their children or their marriage over it or their job over it. And then, boom, you know, they realize they're having this other involvement by humans. And it's one thing to say, well, you know, we can't account for the ETs. They're alien. They're other. There's something unknown. We don't know why they're doing it. You can live your life and kind of go, well, that's just this weird aspect of it. But suddenly, when humans are involved, you're like, wait a second. Humans know they're doing something immoral. They know they're doing something illegal. They know they're doing something unconstitutional. And the abductee usually feels more damaged by their human experiences than they ever did by their alien experience.
I could totally see that. And as for me, I don't know if I would be regressed. I don't know if I would, you know, I've been asked about that a lot. I think I don't want to know. I don't want to know if there's...
regression helps.
Well, I don't know if... I don't want to know about the ET side, but I would certainly not want to know if there's a government side to it as well.
Yeah.
I think it would ruin me. It would ruin me.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what, though? You know what it ends up being for the abductee? It ends up being confirmation and evidence. To me, I have said this from day one. I've been doing covert ops involvement in my lab research now for close to 28 years, 26 years. I mean, I found out, 29 years ago I was an abductee, but for at least 26, 27 of those, I've been doing this research. And from day one, I have said it's some of the strongest evidence in support of the reality of alien abduction. When you're an abductee and suddenly you get harassment, surveillance, monitoring, stuff going on with your mail and your phone and your email, and then you have human personnel in your experience, you get picked up by them, you get interrogated by them. It is evidence that you go, whoa, I'm really having these experiences. I'm really having these alien experiences. And it matters to someone besides me. There are people who are monitoring this and studying this. And it kind of helps the abductee come to terms with the reality of it. Beyond, of course, the evidence for their alien abduction, certainly in alien abductions, having witnesses, other people you're taken with, a mass abduction, witnesses to your abduction, physical evidence, landing trace evidence, implants that you have, or new scars and marks that appear on your body overnight. All these various things help you come to terms with, okay, this is real. But if anything, this is another form of evidence that helps abductees realize that. And it just means it's so real, so important, happening to so many people that it's become a matter of national security. And I don't think that's anything to be frightened of. I think it's something to be expected. To me, it makes such perfect sense and says so much about why there's no disclosure.
Right. That's a really good point. You want to take some phone calls?
Yeah, sure. And, I was prepared tonight. I admit, and I sent some stuff out on Facebook that I was in the mood to tell my lab stories. If anybody wanted to hear a particular experience, I'd be open to that. But yeah, let's take some phone calls, because I'm sure people out there have some good.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to open up the phone lines now, 323-825-5045, and we'll take some calls after the break. I wanted to ask you this. With the genetics side of it, right? The hybrids, the hybrids and stuff. Would you, or have you, how would you spot a hybrid? And have you seen a hybrid?
Well, it's very common for abductees in their abduction experience to have what's called the presentation. And now, abductees are experiencing everything from hybrid babies and newborns to toddlers to, kids, teenagers, and even hybrid adults. I've had 4 hybrid presentations for sure. 3 children, and one time one of those kids was shown to me 20 years later as an adult. So I saw the same hybrid in 2 different abductions. That's just, I'm not sure what was going on, other than the ETs were saying, this is your child. Sometimes they want you to hold it, have an emotional bond with it. Maybe the hybrids need that emotional connection. I'm not completely sure. That's just saying for me. For other abductees, they've had more and less, involvement. Some abductees then are meeting their hybrid children in daily situations with having the child approach them in a public setting or something like that. And those are called the perfected ones. So there are hybrid beings that are seen on board ship or whenever you're in the, quote, alien environment, that you're seeing hybrids that maybe wouldn't pass on Earth. They wouldn't be living amongst us. They'd stand out. They're too unusual looking. They're too, they're like the extraterrestrials. But then there are hybrids that are what in abduction research called the perfected hybrids, that for all intents and purposes, they are a human being. They just have a lot of ET DNA.
Got you. Hold on for a second. I'm on a break. These are automatic. You got to remember, Melinda. I got to interrupt so often I don't mean to. Our guest tonight is Melinda Leslie. Sure. Taking your phone calls next. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
PatriotPrepared.com carries the leading brands of storable food from Numana, Legacy, and Heaven's Harvest. Patriot Prepared. Our name says it all. We're dedicated to empowering you to be self-reliant and confident in any circumstance. Whether you want to be prepared in the event of an emergency or you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, PatriotPrepared.com has prepackaged meals and kits for your entire family. Legacy, Heaven's Harvest, and Numana are known for high-quality, great-tasting GMO-free, nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. Simple to prepare, easy to store, gluten-free and organic high-quality nutrition options with a 25-year shelf life. You can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. So go to PatriotPrepared.com right now to pick up your supply of high-quality storable food for your family, because it makes good sense to be prepared. That's PatriotPrepared.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Melinda Leslie. And Melinda, I said right before the break, let's take some phone calls. You ready?
Yes.
Let's do this. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Melinda Leslie. Who's calling?
Hey, Melinda, this is Brad. How you doing?
Good. Hi, Brad.
Hi. I had a little question. I'm kind of concerned, with all the semi-disclosure coming and stuff, and, I'm an experiencer myself. I've seen some UFOs that really changed my life. Much like Jimmy, too. It was kind of like that. It was like a in-the-sky kind of thing. And it just seems like it doesn't seem fair. Like, we're kind of like on the ground, looking up, always wondering what's going on. We're not really getting downloaded, I think, with we're all just waiting and waiting and waiting, and we're not getting like the download or the info that we need. And I was just wondering, how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel your frustration. I have it too. Some people are. Some people who have what they would more describe like a contactee experience receive all sorts of information. Even some of the abductees get all sorts of information, everything from Earth changes information technology. I talked about Yvonne lecturing at the Congress, and one of the things she lectured about was this sense of urgency that abductees have, that something is coming, something's going to happen. They feel like they're going to be activated at some point and be somehow involved in these coming changes. A lot of abductees are feeling this. So people are getting what you just said, downloaded. They're getting information. That's one of the reasons these covert ops happen. Those guys, meaning the, covert guys, want to know, what is that? What's the information we're getting? So I feel your frustration because we're wanting answers. And that's why we're wanting disclosure. We're needing that big disclosure. We're needing someone, unfortunately, I get it. I get it psychologically. You need someone to hold your hand and say, this is what it is. But I also think in this, I'm sorry.
The one cool thing is, I do notice, I don't have much time to, crawl down the rabbit hole, but when I do find more answers, and that's one thing that is more settling, and I just love the work you guys are doing, and, if you have more info, please keep telling me.
Thank you for the phone call, Brad.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. I say to everyone out there, I think, like Brad's saying, is doing the research, doing the investigation. I think that's what you can do. Empower yourself with information. And don't wait for someone to give you disclosure. Get disclosure yourself. Do the research, do the information, attend the conferences, listen to the lectures, read the books, and you can empower yourself where you don't need to be disclosed to, And by all means, if you come on, shameless self-promotion here, but if you come on my UFO sign tours or you come to Contact in the Desert and you have sightings, no one can tell you otherwise. Once you've had sightings, you know what it is.
That's exactly my point. That's why I don't care anymore, Melinda. I don't care. Right? I don't care. I really, 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 really don't care. I let it hang out. I told the truth, and thank goodness that I had you and Rita and the hundreds of people that were out there and the images and the video. I just don't care because everything just stands on its own. So let's go to the phones. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Melinda.
Hi, Melinda. Thank you for taking my call. I have a quick question and a comment. My own opinion is that the aliens do not want us to disclose them because if they did, what in the world would the human race say? Especially our president, for example. These aliens come here, they take you, they do whatever the hell they want to you. They dump you off, and that's that, and I can't stop them. There would be world panic. And besides comes the religious aspect. Is there a God? No, you people have been praying to us. We're the ones that created you. We made your world. Don't waste your time praying. I think the complications would be astronomical, although I would love to know an answer. I truly would. And you're fortunate enough that you have your answer. And so do I. I don't need a government to say they exist. I can listen to people like you and see enough credible reports to know they do. So there has to be some kind of very logical, common sense reason why this is so hush-hush.
That's a very honest comment. But you also said you had a question. What's the question?
My question was, have you ever asked the ETs, why don't you come forward? Or have you asked them any questions? Where do you come from? Are you interdimensional? Do you come from a different planet? One other thing, are they really, let's say they come from some other world. Are they actually the occupants of that world? Or are they just a really sophisticated android that lives for thousands of years that can endure the time travel?
Well, this is why we need what we were saying with disclosure. Those individuals who are involved with them at that level and working with them, developing their technology, they have those answers. We don't. Some humans do, and we're not getting them. Some abductees know what they feel and what they've learned in their experiences, but most abductees are so caught up in the moment of trying to grapple with, is this really happening to me? Is it real? And kind of the trauma of the moment. And that's not to say that the abduction was necessarily bad, but the trauma of is it real? And am I crazy or not? And so you don't have the presence of mind in the experience to ask those kind of questions. I have. And the other thing is, when you get the answers from the abductees, you don't know if you're getting the truth. You say, why are you doing this? Because I've had answers like, because we can. Why me? Well, you're special. Why am I special? Well, we need you. Why do you need me? You're not getting the information. They're not forthcoming. It's like going, not to trivialize it, but it's like going to your dentist and you have a gag on. You don't get to ask the dentist what's going on with your teeth. They're commenting on something wrong with your teeth, and you don't get to participate in the discussion. It's like that in abductions. It's so one-sided that if you have the presence of mind and the clarity to ask, then we don't know that we're getting straight answers. And there's so much we don't know. And those humans that do know, those involved with it, and managing the ET technology, managing the quote cover-up or, policy of non-disclosure. Those folks know and they're not talking. And so you have a disconnect. We don't know. Now, yes, we can have sightings, we have abductions, we know it's real. There's still so much we don't know. And hopefully one day we'll be able to, move forward as a human race with that knowledge, with our place in the universe. And that's why disclosure does need to happen. I mean, it absolutely needs to happen. But I get why they're doing it the way they're doing it. It's just taking too long. And I feel everyone's frustrations. I get very frustrated over this. And then I also get, like Jimmy was saying, like, I don't need to know anymore. I also get jaded.
Yeah, right.
and cynical. So I get jaded and cynical, but yet I'm frustrated. And yet I want to know. I have so many questions, myself. And yet those that know aren't talking. And then that's frustrating in itself, too, because why don't you bring us all up to speed so we can participate? I've always said this, we can't operate as a democracy, and I'm not just talking about U.S., I'm talking about, the world. We can't operate as a responsible people if information's being withheld from us. And we're kept in the dark on so many things, not just this, so many issues. And no wonder we can't make educated, choices that move us forward and move us forward, in a higher consciousness as a planet, move us forward in advanced technologies that can help the whole planet and help everyone on it, because so much is withheld from us, and that needs to end. We need to step forward together as a human race.
Caller, I didn't get your name.
My name's Cliff.
Cliff, excellent points, man. And Cliff,
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Cliff. Thank you for the phone call. Cliff actually asked one other question there, Melinda, I thought was great, which was, how do we know if they aren't, robots or droids, and they're not even, they're thousands of years old?
Well, I think some of them are definitely biological. Could they be biological robots in some cases? Certainly.
Sure.
We don't know. And there's more than one. We're not talking one ET type. I mean, there's so many types that people are having interactions with. There's
then
like
there
a
has
top
to be
20 list. But,
sure.
But so some of them may be, some of them may not. That's part of what we don't know. I mean, again, we're kept in the dark. We don't have information. The ETs aren't always forthcoming, and when they are, who knows if they're telling us the truth or not. The government guys involved, they aren't telling us, so we're all just left with this giant guessing game, and that's what needs to end.
One of a family member, a cousin, said to me a few years ago, one of the most extraordinary statements that I've ever contemplated, and it's this: what's more dangerous than finding out if ET is real and we're being visited? What's scarier is if we find out that we're not, and that we are alone in the universe. He said, if you really want to have anarchy, you want to have the planet go nuts, tell us that we're alone. Then we don't have a reason to live. We don't have a reason to keep this planet clean. We don't have a reason for anything. That would be really, really, really bad news. I think we could handle
Jimmy, the evidence that you and I live with. You've had sightings. I've had sightings. My clients have had sightings. Those of us who've had the abduction scenario, that's not even a possibility. We're absolutely involved with other beings, other intelligences. They're non-terrestrial. They're not from here. They're extraterrestrial. Does that mean interdimensional? Does it mean another planet? Well, I think science will show that another planet is another dimension. So, it's semantics. The problem is we are involved with beings and intelligences that are not from Earth or not part of the third dimension of Earth. And so we have that. I think that's been answered. I think that's been answered repeatedly in spades. I mean, anyone go on one of my tours any night and see advanced craft defying physics, and we're not flying we're not flying 50 things that we built in the sky over Sedona every night. We're not joyriding our stuff over major cities. We have very limited anti-gravity technology. And I think when we fly, this is extremely restricted airspaces. So, and you had a sighting, so it's like, okay, I think that question's been answered.
Well, yeah,
I don't think that's a possibility.
But the point that my cousin was trying to make is that with the government's excuse that we couldn't handle it, right? If we found out that ET was here, that we would lose our minds, like Cliff just said in the call, religions would collapse. No, it would be the exact opposite. If we found out that we are not alone and they admitted it to, then we have something to live for. We have friends out there. That's the point. You really want us to freak out? Tell us we're alone and keep up that narrative.
Jimmy, thank God we do have something to live for. Thank God. Just think of what the space race did in the 60s for the development of the technology.
Bingo.
And the furthering of the economy.
Bingo.
And when disclosure happens, you're going to see the economy. You're going to see this. We're going to go out into space. We're going to go to other planets.
Right.
We're going to have this amazing, abundant economy with the development of the technology that's going to make the 60s and 70s look like the Stone Age. I mean, we're just going to go boom.
Right.
And that's exciting. So we have so much to live for. This is an exciting future. Disclosure is an exciting future. And I don't think religions, some religions, yes. I'm not going to be, naive about that at all.
Right.
But I think all in all, people realize there's a bigger intelligence out there. Our God is the same God as the ETs. We're talking about a universal consciousness, a universal connection. It doesn't diminish God. It makes my God bigger.
Well,
my God is part of that. And our popes, have said that. They've said, hey, this is okay. They're our brothers. We discover another continent. We discover a civilization on Earth we didn't know about. That's happened throughout human history. So now it's just, okay, another continent, another state, another country, another planet. Is there a difference? They're still living beings.
And that's exactly the point. And can you imagine the overwhelming amount of awakening and awareness and the connection of brains, that would happen universally around the world where we would just all become one? And I don't want to sound like I'm some flower child from the 60s. That's not what I'm even suggesting. But we are earthlings first, and right now it's all about divide and conquer. And we've got to move past that.
And that's being manipulated. Well, that's another thing. I know you've had a lot of guests on who've talked about this. That's being manipulated and controlled on purpose to keep us separate, to keep us warring, to keep a war economy and a petroleum-based economy and all those ongoing lies that aren't reality, but it's being manipulated because it is how things are structured. And again, it's all that's going to change. And disclosure starts changing that. And I guess I just said it.
Okay.
That's the change. I mean, you're left going, that's it, and that's what's needed. And I think it has been planned because I believe that those who are managing the subject know that we have to get to that point, that what we have currently going on Earth is no longer sustainable. And so it has to happen. And I think they're speeding it up, and it's a process, and we're in the midst of that process. But it's frustrating when you've had a sighting and you've had an abduction, because then you know ahead of everybody else.
That's exactly right.
And I look forward to when we don't have to fear ridicule, and this can be openly discussed, and we get to move forward.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Melinda. Who's calling?
Hi, Melinda. This is Bev.
Hi there.
Hi, Bev. What have you got?
Well, okay. You remember the TV series V?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that we would ever be able to live amongst the ETs?
I don't know. I hope so. I think we're talking about multiple races, multiple types. In that show, they were reptilians that might eat us. Well, luckily, that doesn't seem to be borne out in the evidence. Yes, there's reptilians, but they don't seem to be eating us. And it seems like we're kind of the aggressive race here, but some of them could be aggressive towards each other. I'm not saying that's not there, and that's very possible. But could we live with them? Well, some hybrids are here, and so we are living with them already. I'm not sure that we'll have to live with them unless we space travel to their planet or we start allowing them here. But that's down the road. And they are here. Abductees are living with them, and abductees and contactees are living with them and are able to. So based upon the abductees and the contactees, and, I shouldn't forget those in the underground bases in the installations who are working directly with them are able to work with them. And so I think there's a lot of examples of people are able to live with them have worked with them and are obviously able to do that. I think we can rise to that as a human race. I think we're capable of rising to that.
Thank you for the phone call, Bev.
Well, thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a great question. And what about this aspect of Bev's question? We constantly hear about the good and the bad, the benevolent, the malevolent, and we've got a lot of researchers and experiencers out there that are arguing this point. They're wrong. I'm right. And what's really going on? It is. I would think that if we were going to see a bad side of ET, we would have experienced that. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I don't think that they're. I don't think there's a lot of evidence that they're highly malevolent towards us. Yes, the abductions, but that could serve some purpose with the hybrids and maybe their race is dying off or we're dying off or whatever. There's all these theories as to why that is. But it doesn't seem to be like it's not eating us, it's not killing us, it's not taking us over, it's not, the evidence doesn't show that. And when they come, they're not shooting at us. And, it doesn't seem, the evidence doesn't support that. Now, I'm not saying there aren't types that maybe are, but so far what we're involved with doesn't seem to have that. And it's kind of like this. Maybe it's Michio Kaku I'm thinking of, who talks about the type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, civilizations, and that we're not even a type 1. And a race that is so far in advance in its age and technology to be off planet, to have that level, if there was a development process and a development timeline, anything like we have, you think, maybe with that length of time, with that development comes wisdom, okay? I think over time as a human race, we've gained more in wisdom. Are we still warring? Yes. But we're a far cry than the human race we were 1,000 years ago, or even whatever. I'm just being very general. But I'm thinking if they've been around for 1 million years longer than us, one would think there's been a development of maybe consciousness and wisdom. And that could be why we're getting these beings that aren't really being aggressors, malevolent. Maybe, maybe there's a wisdom that comes with that development.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, because certainly I would guess this. This is how I it's a numbers game. So if we have 500 billion stars, right, in the Milky Way, and then there's the planets that are around those stars, and the amount of life that is out there, okay, it's infinite. It is teeming with life and different species, right? And if they were pissed off, if they were militaristic, if they wanted this planet, if they wanted us gone, all of that would have happened, right? And that's
especially if they're interstellar so far ahead of us, they would have, technologies that are like magic to us, just like advanced races here, not advanced race, I shouldn't say that, but, advanced civilizations here on the planet, that their technology was like magic to Aborigines, or,
sure.
examples. So,
right.
So, and it could be that, it would be beyond our grasp to understand. But again, if they, with an ability to do that, and those kind of technologies, obviously, like you were just saying, if they wanted to hurt us in any way, there's nothing we could do about. And part of that is our kind of quickly growing up to say, maybe we don't want to pick fights with these guys. And again, we're also speaking to why there's no disclosure, because those guys who've recovered that technology and developed it, and who are working with some ETs, know that, and know that, some of the world's population might react in a way that could start the ET war. And so disclosure might put us at risk when those who feel that they're capable of handling the information and not us feel like, well, they're able to be peaceful with the ETs and they don't trust the rest of us to react that way. That could be one of the driving factors to why it hasn't happened.
Well, but one thing's for sure, I really love a good alien invasion movie. That's a fact. Melinda,
Jimmy,
listen.
living it might be a different experience.
Yeah, totally. Melinda, I'm going to ask you to hang on for a little bit of overtime tonight, okay? So we're going to take a break because you promised me a few minutes ago a couple of really good MILABS stories. So I'm going to let you.
My own. Rather than share anyone I've worked with, I'll share something of my own.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Melinda Leslie, discussing MILABS, but we've been all over the place tonight, contacting the desert and our sightings from last year, and that's what we're going to do. When we come back, we're going to let Melinda cozy up next to the campfire and tell us a nice experience, and we'll be right back. More with Melinda right after this short break. Stay with us.
You are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my. It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. Mm-hmm. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave Moisture Control Units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to jimmychurchradio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Melinda Leslie. Tomorrow night, Dr. Michael Sala is going to be here. Wednesday night is Ouija night with Karen Dahlman. Thursday night, Fader night with Open Lines and John Rappaport. Friday, I'm over at Coast with Corey Good. And then we'll announce my Saturday guest over at Coast on Thursday night. You know, Melinda, this is the thing. This is one of the most brilliant things about this show is just sitting around imagining, you know, we're camping somewhere. Right. And I got you to tell us about an experience. And so go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, just so everyone knows, I have reason to believe I've had 9 military abductions. Okay. Now, of course, I've had harassment and surveillance and black helicopter stuff and phone and computer stuff that may have happened at night. I don't know if that's a pure technical glitch or we were messed with. The timing was such, I suspect, I should say, that we were messed with. But as but I've had 9 times where I've had experiences that involved covert human personnel in an abduction scenario, whether there were times when I was taken by ETs, but there were military personnel present, and then there were times when I was taken by military personnel. I was sitting there during the break, Jimmy, thinking, how much do I want to mess with Jimmy and the Fadernauts?
Fair enough.
How spooky do I want to be? And I really was debating this with myself. And you know, I've had different types of experiences. And certainly there are these ones, and I haven't talked about this. There's so much with the research that could be talked about and not enough time in a radio interview. But one of the things is what I call the handoff, where someone has what seemingly seems like an ET experience, but at some point the ETs hand them over to the military. But that isn't what I'm going to share. I thought of that one. There was one significant one with that. But then I thought, and I have friends out there who've been in experiences with me who are probably going, oh God, is she going to talk about ours? But one person, the answer is yes. And that person, Misha, if you're listening, it's our story after thinking about it during the break. So she's been very public as an abductee and public with her name and has support groups and everything. So even though I didn't tell her I was going to do this, I know I have permission. Her name is Misha Johnston, and her and I were doing some research together at one point, and we were on Coast to Coast, but it was after Art had retired the first time, and there was a host by the name of Mike Siegel for about a year or two. And he had us on the show, and Misha and I were on together. And I was staying at her house because 2 weeks later, we were going to present together at what was then the Bay Area UFO Expo. So we did the radio show on I believe it, I'm not remembering right now, it's Friday or Saturday night. I think it was a Saturday night. And then we decided that I would stay at her home after doing Coast to Coast, and we would work on information that we were going to have, like handouts and flyers that we were going to have for our exhibit table 2 weeks later, okay? So, but we were being very active and very out there, obviously. And what had happened is not the night of the radio show, but the next night, I had gone to bed. She had a roommate who was out of town. Misha was in her master bedroom down a hallway, and I was in the living room on a futon couch, like, a couch, but it would pull out and make into a bed. And we were awoken during the night. Now, Jimmy, before I go on, let me ask you, how long do I have? Because this is going to affect the telling.
We've got 18 minutes. Okay.
So I'm going to try to move it along, and if anything, I'll try to be brief. If we have any time, I can go back and go over some part. But in this particular, and this is, I think this is a good example too of when someone is actually taken by the military. So that's another reason why I chose this story. So I go, and in this case, I think it was because of our being public and doing the radio that this was specifically for the purpose of threat and intimidation, okay? They wanted us to stop talking, okay? So, and for a while it kind of worked, long story short, but okay. So I was on the futon couch, she was in her room. I'm awoken by what sounds like somebody at the front door, and I knew her roommate was out of town. So I'm thinking, did her roommate come home early? And is her roommate trying to get in the door and not able to, fiddling with her keys, fiddling with the lock? And I heard all this noise, and suddenly, and it was a lot of noise, it woke me up, and then the door busts open, and in comes a group of guys, all in black with like combat boots on, and they have they're all in black, and they have helmets on, and they have night vision visors on their helmets down, so they have night vision. And then there's a guy in camouflage with a headset on in the doorway, and two of these guys come over to me, and I ended up doing some investigation to find out this thing was called a sticky shocker, but it's a thing that I think was kind of like a taser type of device that it poked me in the neck and caused my whole body to like tense up and seize up and then go like numb from the neck down. And it felt like when your leg is asleep, when your arm or your leg falls asleep. And that happened. I saw, so two guys came over to me and were handling me. I saw two guys go down the hallway to what ended up, of course, being Misha's room. She was drugged in her bed, and they lifted her out and carried her down the hallway. In my case, they got me up, but like when your leg's asleep and you have a hard time kind of maneuvering it, I was having a hard time moving about. The guy in the doorway with a headset on motioned, I thought to me, like, come here. I think it was to the guards that were with me, but he motioned, and I started to move that direction, but because I wasn't moving well, I walked into, she had a glass top coffee table, and I walked into it. I ended up breaking the glass top coffee table and the legs because I walked into it. I realized I was about to fall on it, so I turned so I wouldn't fall and injure myself. I turned and fell backwards very hard on the floor. It turned out days later, her neighbor said, "What happened the other night?" And she said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I was awoken." He said, "Did your entertainment unit with your TV and bookcase, unit in the living room fall over?" Because it sounded like it fell over and woke me up. No, it wasn't the entertainment or bookcase falling over. It was Melinda falling over, and dead weight. I lost control of my body and slammed down on the floor. The guys picked me up. Meanwhile, they had carried Misha, two of them had carried Misha out the door downstairs, and then they carried me. Now, later, I'm just giving some evidence points real quick here, is that later, a couple days later, Misha discovered all this damage to her door. Recently, she had the landlord, just like a week before, had put in new molding around the door, rebuilt the door frame, put in a new door lock. They were doing this on a bunch of apartments, a group at a time, to kind of, fix them up.
Right.
And weather stripping. And it had been repainted, a new molding, new weather stripping, and a new lock put in. Well, suddenly this was all damaged. What they had done when they'd broken in that night is they had gone in with tools into each lock, the deadbolt and the main lock. They had put like a crowbar or something like that, something very sharp, in the seam of the wood, and it literally pulled the pieces of wood apart, and then that allowed them to break in and push the door open. So all that damage was done to the door. We took lots of photos, and the damage to the coffee table and all that stuff. So, but anyways, going back to the experience. So we were carried out, and this will take too long, so I got to keep it moving. We were carried out, and another quick piece of evidence thing is along that end, she was upstairs at the end of a apartment complex where there were maybe 6 or 8 apartments upstairs and downstairs along that end. And then there was a big open lot next door, like just an open field. And then there was a fence right there between the end of the apartment and the field. That fence had light posts along it with a big globe on each post and, lights. So it had 4 or 5, I'd have to ask her how many, but, lights along there, and lights upstairs along the building next to each door, and downstairs, like porch lights.
Right.
Well, what had happened is it was all dark. Well, it turned out days later, her landlord thought there was an electrical problem because those lights were all out upstairs, downstairs, on the building, and on the fence. And she called an electrician. The electrician came and discovered that there was no electrical problem. Someone had gone along and loosened each light bulb upstairs and downstairs.
Ooh.
So all the ones on the porches upstairs, downstairs, on that side of the apartment building, and the 4, 5 or 6, whatever, that were along the fence, had all been just loosened in their sockets. The bulbs were still there. Someone had just gone and loosened them all. And the manager of the apartment complex was going around asking all her neighbors who unscrewed the light bulbs.
Of course.
So that was just a furthering piece of evidence. But
right.
We were carried out. There was a matte black van, no windows, just a big old van, kind of a dull black color. And we were put in it. Now, I also remember 1 or 2 what looked like motorcycles with cops in full uniform. I believe that was obviously a cover, someone dressed to look like a cop, to look like this was a police thing, to look like maybe they had pulled a van over something, plausible cover story. We were laid in the back of this van, and I believe I was drugged again by something over my mouth and nose, maybe something on a rag or whatever. But we were still somewhat conscious. I was more conscious than she was, but the van pulled away. We ended up going, we had a vague memory of maybe which direction. Her apartment was in La Costa, California, down near San Diego. And so it was a question of, did we go to Pendleton or did we go down to Miramar? I think we kind of decided based upon the feeling and the direction of the van and how it would have had to have circled around to get on the freeway, maybe we went down to Miramar, but it almost doesn't matter. So we the van pulls up, and I remember going through one or two security gates. And because I remember the driver, even though we're laying in the back, I remember hearing the driver talk to some guy outside the window like we had gone through a security checkpoint of some kind. I think there were two of those. Eventually, the van came to a stop, and there's like this large one-story building, and we're escorted out. We're taken into the front of the building. I remember there being some steps, going up some steps, in through some like glass doors into maybe some kind of foyer area, but then we're split up. And I remember her being taken off to the right, and then I didn't see what happened. I was taken to the left. I was then taken down a series of staircases.
Were they carrying, Melinda, really, were they carrying you at this point?
No, I was walking. Whatever they had done in the van that I had blacked out temporarily,
right.
I kind of came to, and I was kind of drugged, but I was conscious and walking.
Okay, continue. You go to the left. You don't know what happens to Misha. She goes to the right.
We're split up.
Okay.
Okay, and then I go down the staircase, and a couple of different flights of stairs going down. I want to say if there were 10 flights of stairs, if there's 2 flights per level, the way stairs wrap,
right.
Then I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was 5 levels down. Truth is, I'm not really sure. But we went down, all these stairs, and then we come out into a hallway. No, when I say me, or we, there was one guard with me. He was all in camouflage, big military guy, had me by the arm. And he was saying, as we walked, when we were going down the stairs, he said, walk right next to me, take each stair with me. If I stop, you stop, and just stay with me. Don't lag behind, don't get ahead of me. He had a hold of my arm. But when he would stop, like he would stop to go down another stair or something and down a hallway, if I took a step in front of him, he would grab my arm really hard. And I ended up getting really bad bruises on my arm right where he was grabbing me, because he wanted me to walk right with him. And so we went down this hallway. We go into a small office area where I remember a chair, maybe a wooden desk. And for a brief moment, he says, wait here, and goes out. So I'm left there by myself. A guy comes in that I remember wearing what I ended up researching and find out was possibly a naval captain. He had pants on. He had a white men's T-shirt and a kind of a semi-dress jacket with some brass buttons and stuff. But the jacket was just open. It wasn't closed. So I saw the white T-shirt, like he just quickly put the jacket on. And this guy comes in. I remember clearly what he looked like. And he starts warning me. He says, we want you to drop this. We want you to drop out. You're not to go forward. This is the end. This is the end. No more discussion. You're done. You're pulling out. You're no longer involved. Whatever. And speaking to me very harsh and threatening tones. And then he said, to impress upon you that the reality of this, and that how serious we are, there's someone I want you to meet. But then 2 guards came in, took me out of that room with him, down a little hallway, in another door, and in there was like an exam table, like a medical exam table. And they had me sit on it. And I'm, of course, scared to death and thinking, okay, now they're going to do some mind control thing. I'm going to be administered drugs or, who knows, hopefully not pain, whatever. And I sat there, and one of the guards, I think, walked to the back of the room, stood there, and the other one out. And I'm sitting there for a moment. And I remember that the guy who had interrogated me had come in briefly, but he then walked out, and he said, and he had already said in the other room, there's someone I want you to meet. He said, wait here, we're going to bring him in. He left, and then in comes, this is going to sound so crazy, everybody, but this is what her and I remember. In comes this big reptilian alien. And very large, maybe 7 foot tall, very broad shouldered. I recently was hearing someone who is an expert on giants on another radio show said, whenever you go up in height, you also go out in width, and
sure.
So this was broad. It looked like a, linebacker with a pro football, big guy comes in, but a reptilian, and comes up to me. Now, I will make this very clear for everyone. I was not actually physically harmed in any way. What I thought happened was that this guy came up to me, pressed me back on this table, leaned over me, and I proceeded to think that I was being brutally raped and murdered, and literally torn apart. He had like black fingernails, slit me open, ripped off my limbs, and
but nothing happened.
Thinking I'm being killed.
Right.
Okay. Yes, exactly. But as this was happening, at one point I realized,
wow,
this should hurt, and I can't feel it.
Right.
And at that point, when I realized I'm not feeling this, and this should be hurting, I realized this isn't real. But I'm in a moment of absolute terror and screaming to realize, wait a second, I'm not feeling this. At that point, he had been leaning over me. He backed up, and I'm looking at my arms, legs, and everything, and realizing I'm in one piece.
Wow.
And I'm shaking. He walks out of the room. In comes the captain guy again. The captain guy comes up and says, you keep talking, you keep researching this, and next time that'll be real.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's what happened to me. Now, initially, remember, when I was taken down the hallway and in this room, I was with the captain guy. What had happened to Nisha is she was taken down another hallway in another room, okay? But she, immediately upon being taken in, they instantly brought in the same reptilian, which we both later recalled him, and an artist has drawn it for us, etc., okay? A very capable artist, David Chase, in Ufology, drew that for us. Right. And so when I was with the captain, she was with the reptilian. Now, what she thought is she has two sons at the time. They were living in the Vegas area together. One had a new young child. Her sons have families now, but at the time there was one child, and one son was currently kind of a little down on his luck and living with his brother briefly. What she suddenly realized when the reptilian came in and came up to her is that she thought she had suddenly somehow been transported to the living room of her sons. And she says it was like ninjas came in through, it sounds a little silly, but guys all in black, military guys all in black, looking like ninjas, came in through the door and through the windows in her son's apartment. And she thought she was watching her sons and the family, her grandchild, being brutally murdered in front of her. And she said they had like knives and were cutting everybody up. But after a while, and everyone's screaming and all this stuff, and then she realized at some point she couldn't hear it. And she said, everyone's screaming, but I'm not hearing anything. And at that point, she realized it's not real because she's not hearing anything. And at that point, when she realized that, suddenly it stopped being the mental projection. And again, the reptilian was standing in front of her. Right. The reptilian leaves the room, in comes the military captain. So in other words, when I was with the captain, she was with the reptilian, and then they switched places. The reptilian came with me, and the captain went in with her. And the captain said, stop, drop out, or your family will be killed. So, and that particular experience was specifically for a threat. And we were eventually brought back, put back in the van, and brought back home, but have the evidence of the neighbor downstairs hearing me fall that woke him up. Right. The lights all being unscrewed in their sockets, the damage to the front door locks and frame and the table and everything else. We both were covered with bruises.
Did you guys, before we run out of time, just a couple of quick questions here. Did all of this was recalled? I mean, these were real memories, right? The next day, you and Misha, WTF moment, and did you guys sit down and discuss all aspects?
Well, we started to piece things together when we got up in the morning and the coffee table was broken. Right. And then et cetera, and then realizing we had bruises on our bodies. So we started to realize something had happened. Right. We didn't have immediate memory. I started to have bits and pieces of memory, and so did she, over weeks. We did get regressive hypnosis. I got regress first. She was a little bit, I think, reluctant initially. Eventually, she got regressed too, and we worked with the same regression therapist on that experience. It was a gentleman, and he ended up saying we clearly recalled the identical same experience, and who was with the reptilian when the other was with the captain, and everything all made perfect sense.
Right.
Now, we had bits and pieces in memory and then used regressive hypnosis to get more of the details because, understandably, we were pretty blocked because that was a particularly frightening experience.
Didn't I see Misha last weekend?
Probably, yes. I think I probably introduced you. Yes.
Well, yeah. I'm just trying to recall, right? Anyway, in that the both of you, your feet are on the ground, but this is a pretty incredible experience to go through. And my only comment on that, because I know Misha and I know you, it didn't work. In that.
Well, it did for a while.
That's my question.
And
how long?
We both kind of pulled out for a while, but eventually got back in.
Right.
There's more kind of to that because Misha had some other stuff going on for another reason that she did pull out for quite a while, but that was the beginning of many problems that she had. But there was a different reason. I don't need to get into it here why they pursued her more.
Right.
But it did have some effect. Eventually realized, well, that was just meant to be intimidation. And, but even now when I talk about it, I've told the story many times. So people are like, oh my gosh, she talks about it so easy. I've told it many, many times. By all means, isn't the first. But it's still it's still hard for me to talk about. It's still hard for me to get through. I tend to want to just get through it quickly and not belabor it because when I recall the visuals, it was very dramatic. I almost kind of disassociate to even be able to talk about it.
Right. Wow, what an incredible experience. And before I say good night, because we're at the end of the show, I'm just going to keep you here, and you're going to listen to me run credits, and then you can say good night to everybody at the end. How's that? Deal?
All right. Can I do a couple quick shameless self-promotional things?
If you can do it in 10 seconds, go.
Okay. Contact in the Desert, which you and I are both speaking at, obviously, May 19th through 22nd. Contactinthedesert.com. UFO Con in the Bay Area, March 24th through 26th. I'm presenting there. That's CAUFOCon.com. And then I'm on Transcending Realities TV show, which will start airing on iVolve TV in May. And it's going to be a weekly show. We've had amazing guests. We have 18 shows in the can. It's going to blow everybody away. And then, of course, UFO sighting tours in Sedona, which is UFOsightingtours.com.
And there you go, Melinda Leslie. Stay right there, Melinda. Faded Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Jonas, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Faded by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intros, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. Cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Say goodnight, Melinda.
Good night.
Everybody be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.